Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Peoples and Careers. I'm your host, Chamodi Madiveda. So, you know that there is one question I keep hearing from students, from parents, and even from young professionals who have already started working. It goes something like this: I have finished my studies, I have my qualifications, so why does everything still feel so unfamiliar? That's a moment many of us are experiencing the same, and we are after leaving the classroom. To be honest, even I also felt the same when I first started working because I also didn't have that experience as an intern. So you have done the exams, you have your certificates on paper, you are ready, but the working world still feels so strange, and sometimes I can say it's even scary. That space between what we have learned and what we are expected to do when we are in many careers. That's the point where you get stuck. Today, we are going to talk about that gap and how CIPM is intentionally preparing its students to bridge that gap long before their first day on the job. That's exactly CIPM internship unit stands in. So, it was created with one clear purpose to make sure CIPM students don't have to wait until after graduation or let's say one day, someday, understand the real world of work. Instead, they get that experience now itself while they are studying, learning, and growing, still discovering who they are in a professional space. And today, I'm joined by two special people who are truly at the heart of the journey. So, moving ahead with the guest number one. Our first guest is lecturer at CIPM. But what makes this story so meaningful is that he didn't start here as a lecturer. He started as a student, like many of you all who are watching here. So he went through the same CIPM program, stepped into corporate world and faced some uncertainties and learning curves we have been talking about, and then chose to come back. He came back to teach, to guide, and to help and make sure next generation of students feel more prepared, more confident, and more supported than even before. So, with that, I'm really happy to welcome our first guest, Mrs. Salinda Fernando. So, to start up with, I'd like to go back to the very beginning of your journey with CIPM because you are in a straight line. As I mentioned, it's a circle because you came here, you studied, you faced the exams, assignments, and then went back to the corporate world, then again came back. So, can you take us back to the very first day that you walked into this institute as a student, and what stage of your life you were in then, and what made you to choose CIPA?
Right. Thank you, Jamodi. Thank you for having me here. So this is the first podcast that CIPN is having on this. Well, about the first day of me coming into the CIPM, back then it was IPM Sri Lanka Institute of Personnel Management, and I can still remember I was walking through the same steps that I walked in today also. So it was not something in my career. It was not something that I have been planning, right? So I mean, this all happened. I was looking for something to do, and then I figured it out. CIPM, there is a place like this, and then I can still remember I was asking from my father like what I should do, after A levels, and then he's like, do whatever you want to do. So I mean, I'm all of a sudden I'm looking out, and then finding ways and how I can basically progress in my life. So stepping in and then got into the classroom, I can still remember it was Mr. Rukmal Bandarnaik. I can still remember the lecturer's name. Now he's in Canada. So I mean, he was there in the lecture and asked to come in front, and then I was sitting in the class and I started to learn. So the second question was, I was not prepared for anything, right? In my career, I was not prepared for anything. I was looking for something, and I was lost, completely lost. And then when I moved in here, then I realized, okay, there is something called human resource management. There is something called recruitment, something called performance management, something called employee evaluations. Like there are a lot of things that I can learn. So, and eventually I thought, okay, I will continue with this career. And then I went ahead, and then that was CCHRM, and then thereafter when we were learning, it was CCHRM and then again the PQHRM. So went ahead with PQHRM also, and then that learning curve basically continued. So again, telling the student also, back then I was lost and I was looking for a way, and then I found this CIPM and start learning, and it was that kind of a journey.
Okay, so understanding and understanding the what you were telling, I don't think that you saw yourself building a career in HR back then. So did that clarity come later while you are studying as a as a student in a CIPM?
Well, yes, like as I correctly said, like I was lost. Like everybody in our career, there is a point that you may not know what to do, and then you will realize it, when you are doing that. So when I was continue to learn the art, the procedures, the ways, the HR related, fundamentals, and then how the processes works and what are the procedures, HR laws to, there were many things that I was learning. So then I realized, okay, this is something that I can cope up with. So then I continue to, search for it. And then the lecturers back then, like they guided us. They were like, you have to learn this, you have to read the articles, you have to read the newspapers. Back then it was newspapers, and gather the knowledge. And then they were pushing us, okay, get the books, and then get the concept out of it, and then move forward. So then I realized, okay, this is the way forward. And then again, when you work in anything, like even to operations management to HR to anything, you are basically working with people. So that quality that you develop when you are working with CIPM Sri Lanka, because you tend to understand how people react. We are all with emotions, like all other resources. There is no such thing like emotion. So how you control that, and how you get the best out of the people. So those are the things that I realized. I mean, performance management, it's an art, right? So I mean, you can't I mean, sometimes you may even say, it can't be teach, so you got to learn it by doing this, right? So I mean, that give me that edge, to continue and then get into HR, and then get into operations management, and get into many areas that I were in. So that was the turning point, I would say.
Okay. That's so fascinating is that CIPM didn't just shape you as a student, it became a part of your professional life too. So after building your career in corporate world, you made a decision to return. This time you coming as a lecturer. So what drove you back to the classroom, or we can say same place where you studied?
Yeah, I mean, see, I mean, when I came to CIPM, I saw the lecturers, how they basically do things, and what sort of a way that they deliver things, and then how they're trying to convince us, right? And then how they're trying to, get a concept, dig deep, and then get the best out of that. So I was following them. So when I was doing CCHRM, I was sitting there in the class. When I was doing PQHRM, I was participating for the lectures, and I was following them also, right? And then I realized, okay, this is something that I should do. And then how I got to the lecturing career is about, now this is my 11th year. I did it for over a decade. So then I realized, okay, this is, I mean, after some times, I was 27 or 28 years of age, like when I was basically, getting into this. And I can remember, like I was asking the director studies back then, give me an opportunity. I have written about good 100 plus emails to him. And then when I was getting into his room, he was like, I was like, I'm Salinda Fernando. So, you are the Salinda Fernando. ඔයාද අර, emails එව්වේ. ඔයාද මට වද දෙන්නේ. Like that's, I had that hunger to become that lecturer, right? So that's made me a lecturer. And then, okay, now it's come to that level, right? You decide you want to do something, and then you get the opportunity, and then you deliver it. And when you deliver it, the best part is you look at your reviews. And then I am a person, I go through every review after the lecture. We back then it was, manual, and then now it's, you can do it digital. But I know now CIPM, even digital plus manual, they're trying to get more and more feedback. So I look at the feedback, and to say tell you, like, I'm not basically, bragging more about myself. Like I have realized, so I have something in me. So then I looked at the reviews, and I'm being placed in, excellent level, good level, and that made me to do more and more, because preparing for a lecture it's not easy, right? You have to read, you got to get to know people, you got to get to know the subject area. Sometimes when there is a lecture, I basically prepared, 1 or 2 days ahead. And same lecture, I'm doing the same lecture, but I'm searching for the, things that I basically have, right? So, I mean, what are the new things? What are the new books that I can basically, read and then give it back to the, students out there? So that's the, like, if I may say, the, the what I basically followed through the lecturers, and then my passion, and then I got the opportunity, and I'm verifying it, through my, reviews. Okay, I have done this, and then I can continue to do that. And then at the end of the day, that self satisfaction matters a lot. And then, my thing, I'm doing it well, I'm getting good results, after doing all these lectures about good 10 years. I now have close to about 10,000 plus students, and then you see them grow. You see them now, they are the HR managers. I mean, some are getting into the HR heads, like, like, I mean, that. And then we continue that network, and CIPM is a place that you can always continue the network. So, I mean, coming back to your question, so that is how I started. I was given that opportunity from the lecturers. They inspired me, and then I did it. I reviewed it, and I found out, okay, that is my passion, and that's where I should be doing. So that is what basically happened.
Okay, that lived experience being a student, being a practitioner, and now an educator gives you such a unique perspective. So today we are focusing on the very like unique topic, that is move from student to worker. So why does this topic matter to you personally?
Well, it's a very interesting question, Jamadi. See, I mean, very first day, the first job, getting into the first job, and then how you basically carry yourself there. So that is very important. Like, everybody of us had that first day experience. Like me, to Chamodi, even to the any CEO at any company, they had that first day, right? So we were anxious, we were nervous, and we don't know what to do. Sort of like, we prepare ourselves. Like, for an example, we prepare our dress code, what to wear, how is our first impression going to be like, how am I going to speak, what am I going to wear, how am I going to walk, and whether there will be people looking at me. So, I mean, there are a lot of aspect going in your head, not the at the office itself, but way before that you start dreaming. You're going into that place, but still you are anxious. And I know that many students must be facing this also. Like, they thinking, okay, how am I going to face this? So they ask the same question from me also. Like, I'm like, there's nothing called prepare, I mean, perfection there. So you can basically get yourself ready. There are things that you can control. For an example, if a student asks, there are things that you can control. For an example, how you dress, what dresses that you're going to wear, and how you're going to go to the place. Be on time, be on time, and be before time. And in Sri Lankan culture, I would always say, be before time, and then on you will be able to go on
On
time,
time.
right? So, and then prepare yourself, and go to the Google, Chat GPT, or whatever the whatnot. So search for it, and then understanding the organization culture before you get in there, right? You may have a lot of stories behind them. Like, if you go to their website, you will see, okay, what are their values, what are their vision, what is the mission, what sort of a team that they're working with. So, I mean, majority of the information is available now. It's available everywhere, right? For an example, you can go to their LinkedIn profile, the CEO's LinkedIn profile, to Facebook profiles, their Instagram, you name it. So then you will know what they want and all of it. So then you can be prepared. So that is something that you can always control. But there are uncontrollable factors also, like you don't know what will happen. I mean, how they're going to talk to you, whether you will be put into the training, whether you will be put into somebody else for the trainings, like so on and so forth. So nervous, that's the answer for that. We are nervous, everybody are nervous, but control things what can be controlled. But be ready for the unprepared moments, so you'll be getting into that.
So yeah, it's very rare to meet someone who has experienced every side of this journey. And that's exactly why I'm excited to dive deeper with you today, because you have that experience in every way. So moving ahead with our guest number two. Now, joining us next is someone who plays a really important role behind the scenes at CIPM, overseeing not just daily operations but also experiencing of hundreds of students who call CIPM their professional home. She's the center of how CIPM Business School functions, grows, and changes to meet the needs of students as they prepare to step into working world. So it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Kalani Pothupitia, Manager Business School. Ms. Kalani, you are in a unique position at CIPM. You work closely with students, educators, and employers as well. Sometimes I can say that you are getting calls from parents even. So that gives you a front row view of how academic learning turns into workplace readiness. So start off, could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what does typical day look like for you when it comes to supporting students and for the institution as well?
Thank you very much, Amadi, for the introduction. Actually, at CIPM, especially business school, I represent business school as the manager business school. So, what we do in business school is we provide HR professional education to our students, not only for students, because we have designed study programs from school leavers to the senior level management consultants. So here what we do is we provide study programs mainly in HR. So we have a core program called CQHRM, Chartered Qualification in Human Resource Management. So that is the highest professional qualification you can achieve in terms of human resource management. And apart from that, we have specialized program also, specifically in HR field like reward management, employment law, health and safety, likewise. And also we have foreign affiliation, so we deal with CIPD UK and CMI UK. So we provide CMI
SQA, yeah.
professional courses in Sri Lanka, and also we have SQA accreditation for our CQHRM program. So likewise, we provide those kind of professional education in Sri Lanka. So in business school, we have to deal with students, not only, as I mentioned you earlier, not only students, but also with professionals. Because there are HR professionals, they are already professionals, but still they are in their learning curve, so they are into continuous development, learning development. So we provide those study services to HR professionals and students in Sri Lanka.
Okay. Let me start with what corporate world, when it comes to corporate worlds, how they are telling us directly from the feedback. Like you might be receiving feedbacks from CIPM, from employers. Like there are many employers, so you might be receiving feedbacks from them related to our students, like people who graduated, I mean people who got their qualification from us and they are working in this corporate world. Yeah, so you might be receiving so much of feedbacks from employers, and what are the key strengths that they constantly see in those newly qualified HR professionals?
Yes. Chamodi, CIPM is a member-driven organization. We have CIPM members all over in the country and overseas as well. And also we have around 330 visiting faculty with us. All are HR professionals working in different industries. So our lecturers, the visiting faculty, and also our members, we receive feedbacks from them. And when it comes to corporate sector, there is a huge recognition for CIPM student and also CIPM study programs, because we provide quality professional qualification and quality education in Sri Lanka. Our vision is to develop human capital, develop and manage human capital in Sri Lanka, with a global leader in providing HR professional studies. And we are into unleash human potential. So that is our mission. So by the organization itself, we are committed to provide HR professional services, so that we closely work with HR professionals in the industry. So as a result, we have a recognition. When it comes to human resource management, the first thing comes to your mind is CIPM. That kind of recognition we have for our students.
Okay, alongside with that recognition, what are the most common gaps between the, like you are seeing from the employees? I mean, this recently graduated students, like employers are noticing that, right? So what are the complaints, we can say, what are the complaints that you are receiving from those kind of employers?
Actually, Shamodi, when it comes to your this question, I can see that in our education system, there's a gap in our education system itself, because in our education system, we are into provide knowledge, basically knowledge. But when it comes to corporate sector work environment, we need to have skills and competencies in order to survive in the corporate sector and also to be competitive. So that skills and competencies sometimes we are not taught in our classroom. So I think that is the main gap and the main challenge we should address, especially in our education system. We have to address this gap, because uh, we should prepare our students to be competitive in job market. So our students, they should be more competitive competitive and skillful. So we need to close this gap in order to make our students more confident when they enter into the job market.
Okay, keeping your answer aside, because I might need that answer for my next questions. So there is also like being a cultural country, there's also a cultural side to this conversation as well. So Sri Lankan students are often praised for being disciplined, respectful, and also strong in their theory. But we also hear they can struggle with being professionally assertive. Yeah, from your experience, like what from your experience, what you are hearing and what you are getting complaints or feedbacks, how does this cultural mindset show up when students enter into workplace?
Actually, Jamodi, as you very correctly said, Sri Lanka is a cultural country. Our students or our children, they are very well disciplined. But when it comes to corporate sector, one thing I have heard is that corporate sector, they don't say that our students are uh, not in they are not incapable, and they are qualified, they have knowledge. But when it comes to workplace, uh, there should be professional they should be professionals. The professionalism should be there. When it comes to professionalism, that comes with the practice. So you sometimes you are well qualified, or you may have so many paper qualifications. So but sometimes when you are into write emails, when you are into conversations, negotiations, there are some lacks, so incapabilities. So that is the main thing highlighted by industry professionals.
Okay, I know that our students are having theory, knowledge in theory and concepts as well, but you are saying, what you are telling is they are sometimes lack with soft skills, is that so?
Very correctly.
Okay. Okay, there's a big shift that happens after graduation. Yeah, moving from being a student, okay, next day you have to be a like professional. Being a professional, as a student, like you are evaluated with assignments, exams, grades. But when it comes to being a professional, You are expected to contribute sometimes from day one. How challenging is this mindset shift for first times employees? Like, why do you think it often catches them off guard?
Yes, Chamoli, actually, when we in our classroom, we are taught, we are given knowledge, and we are assessed based on our knowledge. So we are evaluated and we are assessed through examinations, assignments, presentations. But when it comes to corporate world, real work environment, you are assessed based on your performances. So, in organizational setting, you are given tasks, you are given KPIs, you are given responsibilities, duties. So, how you perform in that role it matters. So, you are evaluated based on your performances. So, there's a gap between how you evaluated in your classroom and how you are going to be evaluated in your organization. So we have to be prepared before entering into corporate world. We have to be prepared to take that challenge.
Yeah. So here I have to tell that, I have to mention that what's important here is not the blame, but based on what you have told right now, based on your experience, what you would say this gap is not students' fault, right? Yeah, it is more about education system. It's the gap in education system, yeah. So preparing these students for world expectations. So I think what wow, like what we have done and what CIPM is doing here is closing this gap, right?
Yes,
Okay. And how does CIPM business school like doing this? Can you please just briefly within one word, can you please explain that?
yes. We have identified that problem and we have implemented a solution that is our internship unit. In
Okay,
simple word,
internship
internships.
unit.
Yes.
Okay, this perspective really changes the conversation. Okay, not as students aren't ready, but as the system needs to be evolved, as Miss Kalani said. So, moving ahead with the next question and answer session. So, let's go back to the beginning for a moment. So, because before we talk about the solutions or support system or what CIPM is doing to help these students, there is something more important that we need to do first. We have to be honest, and I think the most honest person in the room to talk about this problem is you. So you came through the CIPM, you came as a student, you weren't any different from students who are listening to us today. And you sat in the classrooms, you learned the theories, you passed the exams, you did assignments, and then one day you walked into your very first job. So, what happened actually? Like, what did you expect that first day at work, and how different was the reality?
Well, when you get into a job, like Kalani mentioned, like there's a huge gap, like in at your classrooms, like as even lecturers, what we give out to the student is okay. This is how this is how you do performance management, and this is the structure, right? This is how you evaluate individuals. You may say, you know what, there is 360-degree valuations, right? 360-degree valuations and then 180-degree valuations. And then all of a sudden you go into an organization and then you realize, okay, they are doing performance management. And then you're like, okay, what is happening there, right? So, I mean, so it's completely different because what you learn out there and then how you're going to practice is two different things. So, uh, I mean, how I feel about it is like when you go into the organization, let me tell you this now. Say uh, you are given, say on the very first day, as an example, say you have asked to call some candidates, or not the very first day, I would say, like when you're basically going ahead. So you would say, get these people and then call them and then schedule for the interviews, and then you are like looking at, okay, how am I going to talk to them, right? And then what is your scripts going to be, right? Are they going to come for the interviews? What are the questions that I should be asking? So there are a lot of questions. Like if you go back to say if somebody wants to put up an advertisement, and you may ask, can you please help us doing this interview, or the JD or the JS. You know what is JD, you know what is JS, because it's been taught in your classroom. And then when I ask you, when your boss asks you, okay, go ahead and get this sorted out for me, you will go there, and then you will wait in the area, like you say it's the operations manager wants to get this thing sorted out, so you will go into the operations manager's office, and you will stand there, and you will decide to stand there, right? I mean, then he might see you, but he might not recognize you, and they were like, then you have to knock the door and to ask them, can I please come in? And then that's how it's differ, because you know how to do the JD and the J's, but how you walk into the room, how you knock the door, how you get there, and then okay, then he may ask you to sit, or he may not ask you to sit. So I mean, that's a process, right? So you need to know how this JD or the J's, how you're going to put it to the paper. Is not that easy, because you have to collect the information, and in the classroom you will know, okay, uh, to collect the JD and the JS, I can go ahead and see the job, how the job is performing. I can collect the information from the immediate boss. I can speak to the candidate, whoever who is doing the job now. So I mean, you know that. But now you go in there, and then you ask the questions like, okay, sir, oh, how you going to ask the questions, and then how you going to ask that gentleman, okay, whether it's Mr. Salinder, or is that Salinder, what's the culture within the organization, right? So you don't know, because some cultures you can call the CEO by its name, by his name, and then some cultures it's like Mr., and then some insurance companies and all, you may say boss, your immediate person, you may say boss. So this is the process. So you study, and then you take one by one at a time, and then say you done immediately. That is how it's happening in the office places. They may say, Masha, your new colleague came to my location, and she was asking me right questions, and I gave him the right answers. And then that is your evaluation, that is how you are being evaluated within that job. So that is how, JD, you know the J's, but how you going to put it together, how you going to go to that location, how you going to knock the door, how you going to ask the questions, how you going to collect that, how you going to go back and put that together. Because it's about what, how you going to talk, the soft skills that she clearly mentioned, like soft skills are required, how you're going to speak to the individuals. And then the negotiating, right? You have to negotiate, like, okay, you sitting there in the, or standing there, you have to negotiate to get in there, right? And then when they come up with some question, without not being defensive, you have to collect those information. Your listening skills, like it's very important, right? When you talk, you don't understand anything, right? So I mean, those things we don't teach at the level of lecturing. So because we were in the curriculum, but I will come back to you, like if you have any other questions, like, so those qualities will develop, something like that, develop through the system. So first day, and then what the classroom being sharing you, what's the processes that and how you're going to put it to practice, is a huge gap, as she correctly said. So we need individuals to through the internship programs, you can basically get to know all of this. Before you get into the pool to swim, you will know exactly what needs to be done before that.
Okay. So basically, so what were you expecting at the first day at the work, and how was it like? Was it very different from your first day at work, or just it's the same thing that you were expecting in your work life?
See, I mean, again, going back to, again, my first day at office, I was little lucky, because I got in there, and then I saw another student or another colleague, which he was basically, came there to work, and then we were put for the training program. Now, and then I was sitting next to him, and I was like, I was tapping him, "Ayya me, ඔයත් වැඩ කරන්නද ආවේ?" So then immediately we got in touch. So we had our lunch together. We sit next to each other, so nobody's there. I mean, we were a little comfortable. But uh, but when it comes to professional environment, when you got into the new job, So you may get into something like training program, or you may ask to sit for a while, and then you may put into the induction program. There can be different things. So I mean, what we expect is completely different than we're going to experience at the office space.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is for listeners. So I want to pause here for a second because maybe some of you listening are smiling and smiling nervously, like remembering your own first day. Yeah, can you relate to that first day's feeling and what surprised you the most? When you first stepped into professional environment, and feel free to share your comments below in our comment section. So um, again, sir, so you came into in well prepared academically, frameworks, concepts, and best practices. But very luckily, you realize that it's not the full picture. But you met your IR at your one of your IRs at the workplace first day, and you were like kind of lucky because you were not that nervous because seeing him make you feel comfortable. So but I feel that some of us our students are not feeling the same confident level when they walked in. So there might be skills for them that they are lacked in, and they learned in during the classrooms, and then when they stepped into the classroom to the workplace, they feel that okay, I am lacked with this skills. So things like dealing with people, I think, handling pressure, working with uncertainty, how did how did these things show up for you during the, like, not the first day, but during, like, we can say first 1 or 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the most important thing is like, I'll let me tell you a story. Like, sometimes back, I mean, it relates to me also, right? Sometimes back, like, earlier in our careers, like we hired some candidates from one of the universities, right? And then they came in, and then they have this culture of calling each and every person, Aya, Aya, right? Aya, Aya. So that's something that they're known to from their school days, and then in the universities and all. And to see even in our office also, it start happening. And then one day, this guy has gone to get some water, and then he was coming back, and he was telling the other fellows, right? I met Aya, and he asked, how is the work? And then we were like, okay, so what did you say? So I mean, no, I said I am all is good. And after a while, I'm getting a call from my AGA, right? And I went ahead and I met him. He was like, see, I mean, your Aya and Malia are doing really well. I mean, yeah, Aya and Malia. I'm like, why boss? Like, what happened now? No, no, there was this guy from your department, and then we basically had that chat, and I asked him how is the environment, and he said, "Aya, meko honda hai kya?" So see, I mean, this is what going to happen, right? So I mean, we bring in certain things from our house, from the culture that we are in, but when it comes to office environment, the culture is different, right? So I mean, when it comes to culture, there are perceptions, there are belief, there are systems, there are individuals, right? So individuals within the culture, they have that say, right? So there are many things that you basically, if you look at it. So as an individual, for me also, I also feel the same thing. How am I going to wear, like, my attire, right? You're wearing, black belt with brown shoes. So that's kind of a person who I am, like. So I mean, that's where I grew up. I knew only one, tie knot, and then I started to see, okay, there are many tie knots there available. And then how you dress yourself. I can still remember, if I have time, like, after a few months of me joining in, I was got promoted as the team leader of the unit. So I was managing old, I would say mature staff than me as a student, as a person. So I was 20 plus years, 20 22 something like that. So, and then I was managing them, and then one of my boss, my CEO, basically took me to a training program. And the first training program I went to is the emotional intelligence. So you lack that quality, so he take you there, and to see. and me and him in one of the five-star hotel, like we had this training program and we went for the lunch, and all of a sudden I started eating, right? So the way I eat, the way I dress, way I look like, so it made me to go to another training program. So CEO selected, I tell you, CEO selected the second training program. He said, there is something called social etiquette training program. I think, Salinda, you should join. I never knew what is this social etiquette training program and all. It was done by one of the leading lady called Nidra Vikramsingh. I think she's still doing that, right? So we went in there, and then I mean, they asked us to dress like that. And you know what, of my entire 12 years or 13 years of my career at a school, me learning certain things, and then that training programs, I think that training programs given me more information about the corporate life, how you dress, how you walk, how you talk. As she clearly mentioned, soft skills was given, that what dresses goes with what how you wear, how you comb your hair, so everything matters. So I mean, there are many things that you really need to work for. So I been there in those situations, I've been trained there, and then that is how a professional will basically go ahead. So that's what I actually think.
Okay. So, was there a specific moment, like not it can be small or big, but memorable enough that it changed how you saw your work? I mean, yourself and how confident you are about yourself and your when you are working in a corporate company.
I was telling this story. I mean, see, I got this promoted within 10 months as the team lead. So I was managing matured staff, and then you all of a sudden, felt like many things on my shoulders. So how they're going to perform is, I have to win the respect from those individuals and for me to perform. It's not about the leadership that I can call the shots. It's not about you running the show, because people don't listen to you, right? So then my challenge was, how am I going to get the credibility, or how am I going to win the heart of those individuals under me, and how am I going to perform? So that took me a while, because people tend to go and complain. The CEO saying, what, he's rude. So then I was thinking, am I rude? Right? I'm looking at it like, I was doing self studies, like, how am I going to get rid of this? So, or if I have anything like that, or it's nothing to do with me, just another complaint. So I mean, in that era, so I made myself, like, even CIPM helped me, like, how you deal with people. That time I was doing the CCHR, because like, there are certain programs, certain things that we got to know, how am I going to manage that situation. So I mean, yes, there are a lot in my career, but this is one of those things that I realized, I had to work hard. I'll have to give more time for me to come up with something better.
Okay. Thank you for being that honest. And because I know someone who's listening right now is thinking, okay, that's exactly how I also feel, and that's why this conversation matters. So, moving next with the internship unit properly. So, walk us through it, and not like a brochure, like you are explaining it to student. He's sitting in front of you, and you can think that I am the student that's sitting in front of you, and you are explaining it to me like why this internship unit, and this is for whom, and like what are you doing with that, and just briefly explain about that.
Yes. Chamodi, as I told you earlier, we have identified that in order to fulfill or to mitigate the gap between our education system and corporate world, we have placed, we have established an internship unit at CIPM Sri Lanka to provide internship opportunities for our students. So mainly, as I told you earlier, since we are a member driven organization, we have CIPM members, and our CIPM members are working in different industries, especially in HRM, human resource management professions. And also, we have a list of registered organizations with us. So whenever they need HR interns or HR trainees or HR qualified employees, the first thing comes to their mind is CIPM. So we receive such request vacancies for HR interns and HR trainees.
Exactly.
So whenever we receive those kind of requests, we have created a job hub, CIPM job hub. So we post those vacancies in that job hub. So our students, if they are interested, they can apply, they can send their CVs to us. So then we direct those CVs to organizations. So then organizations will call them and they will have interviews. So what we do here is we connect corporates with our CIPM students,
Students.
so then they can have better experiences before entering into the corporate world.
Okay. I think every single person listening to us right now, they just, whether they are still CIPM, studying in CIPM, or already at your first job, they just nodded all the something, all the things that you have said. So because there is a thing, Sri Lanka has a very particular version of this challenge. Like we grow up respecting hierarchy, we don't always speak up in our rooms where we feel junior. Sometimes we are not just expecting our feelings or our ideas. We put our heads down and work hard, that trusting that recognition will come one day. That is not a bad value, that is a good, that's a deeply good one. But the corporate world doesn't always reward them in a way that we are expecting. Yeah. So from where you sit as the manager business school, watching student to come through, what do you see? What is the widest gap with the employer side, or with our students, or with our education, or what?
Actually, Jamodi, when it comes to internships, I think that our students, they haven't understood the value of internships or the purpose of internships correctly, because uh, sometimes our students receive and they get selected for internship opportunities, but once they are selected, they reject.
Yeah.
Mhm. We have such challenges also, because sometimes students they are worrying about salary or the payment. So first thing they should understand is that internship, it's not a job, it is an extension of your learning. It's an opportunity given to you to learn, to practice what you learn in classroom. So when it comes to internships, sometimes there are unpaid internships also, but luckily through CIPM we provide only paid internships, but they are somewhat low. The internships low paid compared to jobs, but students should understand that internships are to develop your skills and to learn and to understand themselves. They can understand, they can assess themselves, they can understand their strengths and weaknesses, they can develop themselves. So it is a kind of learning period, not a job. So I can put it like this, Chamodi, why we need preschools before
Okay.
schooling? Hmm?
To get the idea about how you are moving from your safe place, like you are at home. Until you preschooling, you are at home, so you will be learning about how to hold a pencil, how to sing, how to dance, how to write, or something like that. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So it gives you the exposure to the school. So children who have attended preschools, they will not cry on the first day at school. So when you are in preschool, you learn how to make friends, how to deal with friends, how to stay away from home, how to stay away from your mother and father. So likewise, it's a pre-learning experience to school. So likewise, internship, it's your preschool for your career. So it's the first step in your career. So that's why we encourage all CIPM students to get the maximum benefit out of this internship program. So then they can prepare themselves to the corporate world.
So as you correctly mentioned, this program is exclusively for CIPM students. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This is very intentional because then they can get that knowledge where they will educate to practical. They will educate to practical life as well.
Yes.
Okay. At its heart, this unit is about bridging the gap between education and the real world of work. Yeah. So how does this help to students to transition more confidently? What do you think? Like within 1 or 2 words, how can you explain that?
I think basically it's about to develop competencies and skills, especially soft skills. That is what you need to work in corporate
Other than the
sector.
knowledge.
Yes.
Okay.
More
Okay.
than the qualifications,
Questions?
you need skills and competencies.
Okay. I think this question and answers really helps to paint a clear picture with more colors of how seriously CIPM approaches this preparing students not just academically but professionally as well. But now turning to guest number one, our lecturer, Mrs. Salinda Fernando. Sir, listening to you, like you talked earlier about the first year of work, I can't help think about the internship to you because even I also didn't have that experience. For you also didn't have that experience internship unit when you were studying in here. So this didn't exist when you were a student. So what specific things made that first year of work genuinely difficult for you? Because you didn't have that internship experience. Do you think so?
Uh, I mean, yes, of course. Like in my previous examples, also I was telling how to dress, how to walk. The soft skills that she's basically talking about. Listening skills. When you talk, you don't learn anything, right? So you got to stop talking. Then only you can listen and learn something new. So you know I see this like now say even in the classrooms also we see students ask questions asking questions like it's an art. Asking question is an art. Like if you are to learn something you have to ask. So one of my CEOs used to tell, Salinda, you have the gut to say I don't know. I simply, even if I don't know anything, uh, even I will ask it from the student, right? So I mean that's one of the qualities that you can develop. So I mean internships wasn't there. So when you get into the job, so you don't know what to say because when it comes to individuals, they also have their own opinions, right? So I'll see meetings like heads running that, and then everybody else listen, and if they ask any questions, they don't even talk. So I mean they'll walk away. But after the meeting, even if you go around, they tend to speak and to say, you know what, this is they have planned this. I mean, you have given opportunity to speak. You have given opportunity to ask questions. So I mean, asking questions, the soft skills, and then communication skills that she really said. I mean, communication is the words, the vocabulary that you have. It's about 10 to 15%, 20%. I mean, and the more is about your body language, right? More is about your body language and then how you articulate it. So how, I mean, I have seen like we read body language of the individuals, like it's tend to say you are being defensive, you are not being open, so you don't like to take the feedback. So all these things can sorted out if you given an opportunity, because that is, as she correctly said, preschool, like you can do, you can cry about it, you can do all of it, but when you go to the school you don't cry, right? So I mean, you have been put into the pool and you know how to swim, and then you are given an opportunity to do, come in there and then work, right? And then say if you don't do a internship, I mean, if you get an opportunity, if you don't do an internship, there is a cost to that, right? You are
Yes.
putting your name there because it's our name, right? So Salinda Fernand is a name. So you go to some company and you fail, I mean, there can be, mistakes that you make and you fail. So if you do an internship, so then you may know, sort out certain things, and then your name not on the line, so your career may be online, right? So I mean, when you get the right opportunity, if you don't know how to perform, then you will lose that. So I mean, these internship programs, it's the preschool, I would say, as we correctly said, and then moving ahead with that, and it gives you a lot of courage, the energy, asking questions, that sense of, understanding, empathy, all these things will come into that play, and that's very important.
Okay, so since you mentioned that since you don't didn't have many of those skills and you had to face for trainings, you had to attend for several trainings, yeah. So in your classroom today, what differences do you see between students who have had real professional exposure and those who don't have that exposure before? Do you feel any difference between them?
Exactly, like that's the point. Like, you go to a class, you will see like whoever who question, they're either working or they are either internship or they are either working. So I mean, in our lecture days, we had me and few of my friends, you know, we wanted to put the lecture in trouble, asking questions. We were like, Machan, shall we ask this question? I can still remember even lecturers coming back and to say, you know what, you go home and you do this math and then you'll realize how it's going to work. You know, we put lecturers in trouble, and that's something that we wanted to do. So we ask questions. We were like, we are well prepared. We go through YouTube videos, and then we were like chatting with friends, Machan, shall we ask this question? So I mean, then our intention was lecturer should say, Salinda, I don't know, can I come back to you? That's where we were pushing, like we were so pushy. So uh, whoever who has not gone through that, they will not question. Whenever you given an opportunity, like say a group work, I mean, there are people who emerge, right? Leaders, as leaders, they'll say, okay, I'll present. And then, if you given a classroom task, a group task, the first thing, if I'm to ask them to present it, they will chat with all these 10 people, and first they wanted to find out who is going to do this presentation. That's the first thing that they need to clear out, because that's the world's biggest fear. You don't want to come and speak to somebody in front of somebody, because that is the biggest fear. The death is second, the stage, fear is the thing. So they tend to, find somebody, and then who works, who has that experience, they'll emerge and say, okay, I'll do that, right? And then when we give the feedback, so that person will develop only. So then
Mm.
the all the others will not even get an opportunity. And then working with a team, like team, when you get into a organization also, like you ask questions, and then you teamwork, right? And then flexibility, working under pressure. So all these things comes in during the class, if they have that previous experience only. And then if you have previous experience, what will happen is, with the feedback, you will only grow. And then others may not have the opportunity, they don't ask questions, they don't have the, that feedback that we gives, that is not available for them. So then it's a race, right? So you run as fast as possible to win, right? So I mean, others will not run, and then somebody else run, and they are the people going to get into better positions, and better careers, I would say.
Okay, knowing what you know right now and having lived both the versions of the journey, what do you tell to your own students about this internship unit? What is the internship unit CIPM is having right now?
See, I mean, I I was in my in my career, like I have put into the, positions that I really didn't like, right? Like, you have to learn by yourself, right? That's what happened if you're not gonna get into a internship program, right? So, and I would always ask them, okay, I was telling them, even not the internship, like all the students, those who known to me, they know, I always tell them, okay, if somebody asks you to give an opportunity to work at a store, you're sweeping the store. I mean, how many things that you're going to learn by doing that? You will be speaking to the customers, right? You will be doing that work. You are getting the feedback, right? You ask to, go and, look at the shelf, and, fix the shelf, and then you will understand, okay, why they are doing that. And then there will be team meetings, and there will be managers coming and visiting and giving them the feedback. So I mean, a lot of things that you can learn, I mean, when you given that opportunity. So I mean, I think, they should take that opportunity and then evolve with that, and then only they can go to the certain careers than stepping back and then putting their career on the line.
Okay. So I'm now moving ahead with the listeners. Are you considering the CIPM internship unit? What excites you most about it? Or what's holding you back? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. So let's talk about what waits on the other side of the internship, the full time professional world, let's say employers. And I want to be specific here because Sri Lanka's corporate landscape has its own culture. As I mentioned, as you also mentioned, like it has its own culture, own expectation, and very often its own unspoken rules. Like the working culture might be, so when you speak to employers across Sri Lanka, because you told that you have a database of the employers. So what are they telling you that they need from young professionals, like from our internship, our students who are applying for internship, and what do they feel they aren't always getting?
Yes, actually, Namadi, when it comes to internships, so interns, since they are not permanent employees in an organization, so interns are given opportunities to be grown in an organization. So it's an opportunity. Actually, it's not an employment contract. It's an opportunity for students to identify themselves, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and to develop their skills. So what employers expect from interns is to be disciplined and be and they should be able to manage their time, and they should be respectful to others, and those kind of basics are expected from interns. So interns are, they don't want to be perfect because it's their first job, so they can make mistakes and learn things. So they can make mistakes, but through those mistakes, they can develop themselves. They can still they can learn. So that is what employers expect from interns. Not to be perfect, but to be more focused and more. Uh, they should be able to adapt to the culture.
Okay,
That is the
so
main.
yeah, okay. According to you, that is about communication, professional communication, I think, yeah.
Yes,
And
especially when it
yeah,
comes to soft skills, communication is must in an organization, and also time management, creative thinking. Um, those are the things
and
that,
always okay to listen to like their bosses, or listening to their bosses and get the feedback from them. Always
yes,
open to,
yes, we should respect our
yes.
superiors, our bosses, and we should take advices. We always should seek advices from others. That is what we expect from interns because they are in their learning curves. They actually they can learn a lot of things in an organization.
Yeah, but I heard, I am seeing memes, I'm seeing those things sharing in Facebook, like Gen Z's doesn't have that like respect to bosses, and they are not okay to listen to what they are giving advices or anything. What do you feel about that?
Yes, that it's a good question. Actually, there's a challenge with Gen Z because we recently at CIPM also we had such kind of conversation, how to deal with
Gen
Gen Z.
Z's.
So actually there's a generation, always there's a generation gap. We should accept that, and we should have that respect to each and every generation. So they might be different from us, our generation might be different from their generation, but we should accept that, we should acknowledge that, we should acknowledge this generation gap. But knowing that, We also should maintain the professionalism when it comes to organizations.
Okay, now this is for people who are listening. Which of these feels most real to you? Professional communication, taking initiatives like creative thinking, workplace relationships, self management? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. So, now this situation, what we talked, it's incredibly real and very familiar to anyone who is working in Sri Lanka. So, this is where your classroom meets the real world every day. So when you are teaching, what do you focus to build these qualities like before they graduate? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, Chamadi, it's like, we were given a curriculum, as I correctly said, like we were given a guideline. So when we are lectures, so we have our own PPTs, right? So we will develop the PPT in a manner that it basically goes in hand with the exam. I mean, I always tell the student also, like, it's not about getting a distinction, right? It's getting a A plus and being the badge top. Like, you can be the badge top, but I have seen badge tops are getting failed in the corporate world. Why? Because you need to know certain qualities, what matters a lot. Now, when it comes to, the classrooms, so when I lecture, I tell them the qualities that it required, right? So I take some time. I mean, I take some time. So we give them the assignments, and we give them the teamwork, team group sessions, and then we give them the feedback also. So my thing is letting them know, okay, what is this world is going ahead with, like lot of AI, like people talking about AI, and people talking about losing their jobs, people talking about, how can these things can automate it, right? So I mean, even in our SHRM lectures also, we have digitalization, and then we talk about AI at the end also. So those things they should know, right? Those things they should know. And then I always take examples from the leaders around, and what they really want. I know, the previous company that I worked for, the CEO does not even look at this CV. CEO does
Yes.
not look at the CV. He just have that discussion, and then he will say, okay, this person is okay to, get in place. And then I was listening to Barack Obama, and he was saying the best quality of an individual should have is basically getting work done. That's it. You get the work done. So for you to get, I mean, he's like, there are many people who talk about the problem. I have seen many people around the globe talk about the problem. So the getting the work done. So I tell the student. And then the most important thing I would say, like, the flexibility, agility. If you're not flexible enough, agile enough, you can't go into this corporate world. That's given, because today your requirement, tomorrow it may change, right? So people want you to do some other task, and then people want you to be flexible, because if you're not flexible enough, then you will basically use your plot, and you will lose your job also. You ask anybody, you need agile leaders. We are looking at agile leaders, like you act on the situation. You don't, we plan many things, right? We are very good at planning in Sri Lanka. We are very good at planning, but we are very bad at execution. So I mean, we say we have thousands of things. Like, even if you sit on an interview, I'm planning to becoming somebody, and they have not started it. So I mean, I'm like, yeah, I'm also planning to become the president of this country. I mean, it just give them that feeling, right? What you're planning and how you're going to do. So I mean, in our lectures we say, flexibility required, getting the job done is required, the communication skills required, because we always give them those tasks, right? And then listening skills, the empathy, the soft skills, that needs to develop. And I have seen who develop that, they're in a different world, right? I have seen company leaders asking you to present something with one PPT, like one slide. So you have to use one slide to give the entire story. You have 25 slides, they don't have time to go through all of that, right? So you basically need to articulate in a manner, you have it in one slide. And then it has to be, it's not a lot of words. So then, people need to understand how you put the wording to that, right? One infograph, can explain the entire process than you writing, every step of it. You don't even have, the space to write on that. So I mean, those are the things that I would, train people. I would tell the people, taking more time. I'm lot of like lot of, driven to the workplaces. Like I'll tell them, okay, when you go there, you'll get no for an answer just because of this reason. So I mean, so I tend to, go into that level of detail and then explaining them, because I've been there. I have understood how uncomfortable that is. So I don't want them also to face the same thing. And as she correctly said, how you going to take it up is the challenge. How you going to take it up is the challenge. I'll tell you this thing and I'll close this off. Right? In my career of 10,000 plus students, I have told them, have yourself a LinkedIn profile. Have yourself a LinkedIn profile. I have told them last three jobs that I received, okay, when I was working, three jobs I got through the LinkedIn. I'm working with international client and then he got to me through LinkedIn, right? Because my profile is available. So that is, you are being, you don't want to apply for the jobs, right? So there are passive and active candidates. So you get to know all of this, right? So I mean, the passive candidates, they don't apply because you are comfortable with what you are doing, and then you are getting paid well, your performance ratings are top quality, and then you don't want to be there. So those things I'll tell them. And return, what happens is, I might have received contact requests from about, out of this 10,000 plus student, about 20, 20 to 25 requests I have received. If I got this also, I will give them, okay, the profile picture has to be like this. So I will give them the feedback also, because I know he created this because of this. So, I mean, those are the things I put myself into, and then, teach them to be better. I also think that's my job also to, to do that.
Yeah. Adding something that you have told, so I want to like make this point important, especially for our young people who are listening here, because it's deeply connected to who we are as Sri Lankans. We raised to be humble, to wait our turn, to not to put ourselves forward too much, and that humility is something we truly respect. But there is a version of that humility that can hold you back in a professional environment if you are not careful. So, the working world needs you to speak up when you have something to offer. It needs you to take ownership instead of waiting for permission. It needs you to have the courage to say honestly and respectfully, as Miss Kalani and our sir also mentioned, I see this differently. You have to mention that if you see that, but not arrogantly. This is a professional manner. This is in a professional way. That is professional confidence. And that is what takes career forward. So now again going back to our listeners, cultural humility versus professional assertiveness. Where your balance? Where is your balance? Have you ever felt tension between those two culture values and workplace expectation? How did you navigate that? We'd like to hear from you also as your perspective is there. So, moving ahead, we are going back to speak directly to CIPM students right now. Whether you are listening on our way to on your way to classes, or during this during a study break, or you are going to home after work, or even after you have graduated, this part is perfectly for you. So, sir, you sit across from our students every day. If you could say one thing to them about this transition, something you don't usually get to say during a lecture, what would it be?
Well, this transition of a student to a working environment, I would say, I I tell them, sort of everything that possible, for me to communicate that. I mean, if that one thing that I will say, I mean, don't simply, give up on things, right? So don't give up on things, because I have seen many people, right? You know, you know, I mean, go for your dreams, go for your passion, whatever you feel like, right? And don't don't underestimate your values. Like, you have your value set, you go by your value set, you you speak what you should speak when the time present, and don't ever give up. I mean, there are few things I would say, not one. Like, as a person in my life, in my experience, to anything, like, I would say, not giving it up, value yourself, and then drive yourself. Like, you should have your dreams, you should have your focus. I mean, and then have your focus on certain one thing, because I have seen just Gen Z, like, they're like everywhere. You're everywhere. Like, when you're everywhere, your focus is also everywhere. Like, it's simple as that. You focus on one thing. Like, you focus on this camera, you focus on this camera, right? I mean, you don't go here and there, right? So, I mean, focus is required, and your flexibility is required. So, I mean, those things I have already told. So, I mean, the same thing I should repeat is, like, don't give it up, value your dreams, and then go and achieve those.
Okay. So, Miss Khalani, from where you sit as a manager business school, what would you say to a CIPM student who's unsure about applying for internship unit?
Yes, actually, Shamodi, as I mentioned earlier, we always encourage our students to take internships, to take this opportunity, because sometimes they may feel that having an internship might be a kind of additional pressure to them. As students, sometimes they try to become full-time students, finish their studies, regraduate, and then enter into the corporate sector. That is how they think, some students. But there's a cost of not doing internships, because I also have that experience, that same experience. We also we were waiting until we graduate, but my advice to our student is not to wait until you graduate. Start today. So uh, we are here to help you. We have created a platform for you. If you are a ACHRM student or DPHRM, CEI, CQ, whatever the study program, if you are unemployed, you can apply for an internship through our internship unit. So that way, throughout your study period. So as part of that, we have created this internship unit. So we cordially invite you all to join our internship unit.
So, we have requested, I mean, we have asked from listeners to send, I mean, comment if they have any comment on our comment section. I think we have received one comment, right?
Yes, someone has asked about the difference between being an intern, being getting an internship through CIPM. So I would like to say that through CIPM internship unit, we don't just give you internships, but we are here to groom you throughout your study period. So as part of that journey, through our internship unit, we time to time we organize seminars, workshops, mock interviews, and also career fairs. So you can have those experiences. Um, so you can learn many things from that. So as Mr. Shalinder mentioned earlier, the importance of having a sound LinkedIn profile. So 2 3 months ago, we have conducted a separate session for students regarding this LinkedIn profile, how to build your LinkedIn profile, and also how to create a professional CV, a sound CV. So those kind of guidance and advices are given by internship unit. So that is those are the additional benefits you receive from our internship unit.
So, adding to both of you were saying, what strikes me most about this CIPM unit is not it's not just what we teaches, but it says we believe in you enough to open doors for you. We trust that you are ready to step into the professional world, not in 2 years, but after you graduate. but not after you graduate, but right now as a learner. And then you can learn, grow at the same time. That is powerful statement of confidence in CIPM students. And I would encourage every single of you listening to take that confidence seriously and step into it. We have started this conversation by talking about a feeling, that moment after finishing your studies when everything still feels unfamiliar. I think we have answered that question today very correctly. Not because that feeling means something is wrong with you, it's something that is there because of the system. I mean, because of the education system, there's a gap in that. The move from student to professional is real, it's challenging, and it's the one of most important journeys in any career, in any person as well. The people who navigate it very well are not the ones born ready. They are the one who had the right preparation, the right support, and the right community as well. That's what CIPM has always stood for, and the CIPM internship unit is always stood for. So it is designed to bridge that gap as well. So before we close, I want one final thought from each of you. Not an advice, just something you want to add to a you want a CIPM student to carry with them. So I'll give the chance to our lecturer, Mrs. Salinda Fernando.
Yeah, one thing that they should carry forward. Well, see, when you ask people to do their SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat, like you tend. I asked one of the university students. I was very surprised. I asked them, "What do you think out of this SWOT? What is the most important thing?" You know what? Majority of them said the weakness. Majority of them said the weakness, and they raised their hand and they said weakness. For me, not for me, like for everybody, it's the opportunity matters. Like it's that opportunity matters. If you ask anybody, because you have the strength, you know what is you're confident about, and you do so and so forth, and then opportunity matters. Like we can call those, like, very familiar thing is like, you know this boy, Sirasa superstar, Shihan Mihiranga, he's a good singer, right? But the platform given him that opportunity to become a singer. Now he's a singer, get paid really well. And you look at this Vasti, Anushka, right? They were doing certain things, and then YouTube was an opportunity presented to them. And you look at anybody, Lasit Malinga, you look at anybody around, it's about taking that opportunity. So when the opportunity is presented on a platter at CIPM Sri Lanka, I would ask you to take it and experience it. There is nothing is going to lose. And the other thing is, like, people like, Kalani and anybody, like with Kalani about 15 to 20, 15 or 20 years of experience in the industry. So if you speak to her, she will speak to you with 20 years of experience. It's not just one day, right? So she will give you that, advice or something with that experience. So take that opportunity and then move forward. The only thing can happen is you fail, you make a mistake. We all have make mistakes. We all have gone down in our lives. So take the opportunity, make mistakes, don't wait, make another mistakes, don't make the same mistake again, go along, right? And you learn. We don't fail. We only learn something new. So therefore, I ask them, take the opportunity, learn, keep on learning, fail, doesn't matter, keep going ahead. And I'm sure you will be getting to your pinnacle. And be consistent. Like one day you go to the gym, you want to see the entire body, shaped up. It's not going to happen, right? You can't pose in front of a mirror after one day, right? So you wanted to go there consistently, do it consistently, you'll get the results. So that's all I have to say. Get the opportunity, do it, fail, and then keep on doing that, and you will get your place that you want to get.
Thank you, sir. And Miss Khalani, anything from you?
Yes, adding that, I would like to say that at CIPM we have created so many opportunities for you. One of our internship unit. So through this internship unit, you can apply for internships. If you are successful or if you perform well, you will be hired as permanent employees as well. There are a few instances like that. So in addition to that, we have here at CIPM, we have created you a lifelong learning journey for you. So throughout your career, you can develop yourself in terms of education as well as professional in your professionalism also. We have time to time, then and there, we conduct CPD sessions, awareness sessions, workshops, seminars, trainings, all kind of services, guidance are there for you, because we want you to be successful in your career. So to have to groom yourself and to have a successful career, so here we are for you, so you can get maximum benefit out of these opportunities. So I invite you all to think about that. And as Mr. Shalinder said very correctly, keep on learning, keep on going forward, don't give up.
Thank you so much, both. Genuinely, thank you so much because you added a value to this conversation. So, to everyone who is listening today, it's if today's conversation stayed with you, if you learned something and if you understood something, please share it with a fellow student, younger sibling, or a friend who's about to graduate. Because in this journey, you have to go, you have to work alone, I would say, but you can support each other because you can let them know about the experience that you got from here. So if you want to learn more about the CIPM internship unit, whether you are a current student, a prospective student, or an organization interested in being part of it, visit cipm.lk or connect with CIPM Business School directly. This has been the Peoples and Careers podcast. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care of each other. Thank you so much.